Welcome to Roadmap to 1 Million. My name is Stacy Zeal, and if you're looking to make more money, gain your time back, and rapidly grow your visibility so that you can impact way more people with your brilliance, you're in the right place. This podcast is your one-stop shop for turning your online business dreams into a reality. My main goal is to give women entrepreneurs just like you the marketing strategies, guidance, and expert insights you need to hit that $1 million milestone and beyond. Whether you're a coach, a consultant, or an online brand that wants to make a big impact, Roadmap to 1 Million gives you the actionable strategies and inspiration you need so that you can implement right away, no fluff, no fuss. So, CEO, are you ready to buckle up and accelerate your growth? Be sure to follow the show and let's dive in. Get ready to uncover your roadmap to 1 million. Welcome back to a episode of Roadmap to 1 Million, y'all. I am your host, Stacy, and I am happy to be here with another exciting guest. We are talking all about automation systems, and I have brought on the expert that I go to whenever I have any kind of tech questions, any automation challenges, anything like that. So I am excited to welcome Kronda to the show. But before I do, I want to make sure that you out there, you're following the show. If you have not followed the show already, we drop new episodes every Tuesday. We're going to have a mix of fantastic guests and then me getting on and ranting about different things I think you should know with marketing. So make sure that you're following the show and make sure that if you haven't already, leave us a review. The reviews definitely help us to grow the podcast. It helps more people to discover who we are. So definitely make sure that if you've taken anything away from any episodes that we've aired, or you've taken anything away from this episode, please make sure that you go to the review section and leave us a review. And finally, we will have all of the links that we mentioned from today's episode in the show notes. So you definitely can make sure you scroll on down, head to the show notes. We have show notes on our site so that you can take a look at all the links and all the things that we mentioned today. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Kronda. How are you?
I am doing so well. I just came from a meeting with my clients, which always makes me feel super smart. So
Yes,
I'm ready. I'm ready to drop these gems.
Yes, I can't wait. I know there's going to be so many gems dropped, y'all. So tell us a little bit about your background, about your story. I know that you have like humble beginnings with starting with building WordPress websites, and now you're just automations expert. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I did start in 2013 making $500 WordPress websites, which a rite of passage many web people have gone through. I figured out pretty quickly that was literally not the business. And I figured out how to raise my prices and make more effective websites and all that good stuff. And then at the end of 2018, I really was frustrated with folks who thought like, oh, this website, build it and they will come, you know? And I was like, no, babe, this is just the front door. Like, you got to have a plan. And so I quit cold turkey and I started Content Bootcamp. And I was like, I'm just going to help business owners, service-based business owners in particular, learn how to be people online, learn how to use content to sell their services, learn how to put themselves out there in a way that people can find them, binge, your videos, your podcast, whatever, and show up and be like, you're the one. And so that was really fun and successful. And it worked so well that about 9 months later, people were like, hey, can you help us with our technology? Our technology kind of sucks. I'm like, yeah, I know. And so I ended up back in the done for you side, but this time with like a much more sophisticated container, a retainer offer where we really help them with their website upgrades, their email, their marketing automation, learning management system builds. Like we were doing all kinds of stuff in that container. And it was working really well. We have a lot of successful case studies from that. And that was it until last summer when things kind of market shifted, winds changed and we had to pivot. And so now we're really focused specifically on the marketing automation and helping folks like build that solid marketing automation foundation that they can scale from, that they can then, go to you and say, hey, let's pour some leads into this thing. And one of the things that breaks my heart so much is when I see people running ads and doing all this effort to get people into their funnel, and they do not have a strategy on the back end for how they're going to optimize their funnel and actually convert those leads. So we build that foundation and we make sure, all of our clients have a welcome sequence and a sales sequence. at minimum. Do not be bringing somebody onto your list and they're not going to get sold to. Like
Yeah.
that's literally why we're here. So yeah, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, I love that because it's like it's so important for people to understand that it's not enough to just get leads to come in the door. We do have to have a way of moving people to the sale, of giving people all the information that they need to be able to buy from you, whether that's answering objections that they may have, getting questions about your services, building that trust and getting to know who you are. It's not, turning ads on it's not something that's going to be a quick fix for your business. It's not just, you're not just going to turn ads on and then the sales are just going to start raking in. And so that's why I love like how our lanes are just so aligned, because when I tell people about ads, I'm also talking about your customer journey and your funnel. And you're talking about like, figuring out how do we automate this? Because that's one of the things that I think a lot of people are missing is they're having a lot of one-to-one conversations. They're having it's a lot of manual effort and they start to feel like their marketing burns them out because they're relying on things like Instagram and Facebook that are fleeting, meaning you have to keep creating. Or you're trying to, run ads, but you're not having a way of automatically making sure that those people who have no idea who you are actually do do like you enough and start to trust you enough to actually buy from you. So love that.
Yeah. Well, and the transition, I'm sure you've seen this, the transition from organic marketing to ads can really slap some people in the face because they're used to like, oh, I've been out here. These people know me. They've been following me, and then you go out into the big blue ocean and everybody's like, new phone, who dis, right? You gotta like tell people who you are and get to know them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such an important reframe for people. Cause even when I even think about like, when people are relying on an Instagram, Facebook, like organically to bring people into their world, it's like you still have to build that know, like, and trust. There's still a large percentage of people who've interacted with you that are never going to buy from you. They follow you on Instagram, they follow you on Facebook, and they're gonna, they are gonna consume your content, and they're not gonna do anything else. And so people get so scared of ads when it's like when they're just like, I'm talking to people who don't know me, I have to warm them up, blah blah blah. I get scared about that. I'm like, you have to do that for everybody. It just feels like you're just,
Yeah.
you have to do that for everybody, right? Like nobody's just
Well, I think something about being visible too. I think there's, we don't talk enough about like the mindset blocks that contribute to some of these things. Cause we think of it when it's our expertise as simple, like, well, what, just do that, just send more emails, just do this, and a lot of times there's like internal, head trash that you got to really deal with before you can get that visible or, put yourself out there in that way. So I think that's part of it that I tend to forget and have to remind myself of. I'm like, why are you just not doing the thing?
Yes.
And it's because there's a lot goes into it, and 80% of it or more probably is mental.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. So I've had a lot of people tell me that they struggle with consistency when it comes to marketing, whether that's because their team is overwhelmed in the sense that like their team is also doing client delivery and the marketing for the business kind of falls short, or they are overwhelmed with all the work that they have going on and it's hard for them to show up. So what are some of the things that in your expert opinion, that automation kind of solves for people, or like investing
Mm-hmm.
in systems and automations and tools? How does that help us with how does this help us consistently market our business and stay on top of all the things that we have to do marketing wise?
Yeah. So it's really time and energy, right? Consistency, if you don't have the time and the energy to show up, but yet your business is set up in a way that requires you to keep showing up or you don't get the sales, then that's a problem. And so what we need to do is use content and automation as that bridge that can create consistency no matter what you are doing. And I have just so many examples of this and how we've done this for clients. So a few, actually the client that we are currently sharing, I sent over one of my clients to you. They came to us and they had a whole process for, they have these recurring yearly workshops, but they have to go out to their client base and say, hey, which workshops do you want to have next year? And they were just spending so much time chasing people, sending more and more emails, manually sending emails. And so we looked at that process, we mapped out the whole thing, and we created one form and one follow-up sequence. And so now the new process is, hey, it's time to let us know what you want to do next year. Go to this form and fill it out. And now, because we have a suite of tools in place, we have your email platform and your CRM, which is connected to the form and the website to know, like, have people filled out the form? Well, now once you're in this sequence, if you haven't filled it out, you keep getting reminded a certain number of times until you fill it out. And so we went through that whole, and we had to do it fast, because when they came to us, they were like, we have a month to figure this out. Like, it's when we usually start this process. And so we got it done, and they sent it out. And then when we checked it back in, it was like, okay, 70% of people just went and did the things, like, either from the first email or one of the reminder emails. And so that means a 70% reduction in their workload of manual labor from one form and one automation. And I can't stress enough that, like, you don't have to build this entire system to necessarily have an impact. You can take something that's really a pain point for you right now, and we can look at it and say, okay, let's pass like 70 or 80% of this off to the robots, and free up that mental bandwidth. So, I mean, we have a ton of stories like that. I have one like really amazing kind of perfect client who has been through all of my containers. She went through boot camp. She went through our Done For You. We helped her redo our website. She came back and said, here's a pile of emails. Can you automate them? And just one of our best, most successful clients, in that she came in to boot camp literally knowing nothing about marketing and having no idea how to write for marketing. And she's a dog training business, and I'm a dog obsessed dog mom. Like, anybody who follows me for 5 minutes, you're going to hear about these dogs.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're boring me. That's a problem. Let's fix it. And she just took feedback so well and implemented it so quickly that very quickly she was like, okay, now there's a wait list. And as a dog person who was actually interested in her services, I went to my wife and said, we better get our dog in here, because she's about to be booked and busy. Right?
Leading your marketing as the CEO can be time-consuming and draining, which leads to inconsistent marketing and slow growth. If you're looking to supercharge your sales, gain your precious CEO time back, and increase your impact, our fractional chief marketing officer service at Stacey Zeal & Co. is your secret weapon. Picture this: no more missed deadlines, no more unfinished campaigns, no more jumping from tactic to tactic. You can absolutely achieve all of that without pouring more of your time into marketing, even if you have a small and inexperienced team. Want to know how? Head over to staceyzeal.co/CMO right now to watch our free video. We'll show you the exact strategies and tactics that have helped countless online service providers, coaches, and consultants just like you skyrocket their sales with their existing team. Don't miss out on this opportunity to transform your business. Visit staceyzeal.co/CMO today to watch the video and get ready to make more money, gain your time back, and increase your impact. All right, let's jump back into the episode.
So I just love going through that process and, getting a text saying like, hey, I'm in Italy for a month with my family and couldn't have done it without you. Like, business is running, everything is running, marketing is running. So it really is hugely impactful. And I love just sitting down with people and hearing specifically like, okay, what is that thing that's really taking up your time and energy, or taking your team a lot of time, where they could be spending time on other things that humans are really good at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's such a great, both of those are such great examples, because it really just kind of illustrates how there are just so many things that we're doing. Like, we think we don't have time for things. I think is what I'm like trying to get to. It's like, we say, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. But really, there are so many things in our business that we can automate when it comes to our marketing that helps us to stay consistent. So I get a lot of people that say, it's hard for me to stay consistent because I'm busy, because I'm this, because I'm that. But it's like, if you were to work with an automations expert like Kronda, and she can take a look at your business and see, what are we actually doing every day that can be automated? Because sometimes I feel like we just don't realize that we can automate these things, or sometimes things that we think, it's faster for us to do it ourselves, or it's easy,
Oh,
setting up a Google
oh, the
Drive
death
account.
of
That's easy.
all.
This is easy, right? And so, what are some of the
Uh-huh.
like, some of those kind of things come up with when before people are kind of coming to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say I'm not immune to the, oh, it's faster to do it myself. Like, so no judgment. But I think a lot of times it's people don't actually even know what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I create a lot of content. If you go to our YouTube channel, there's a lot of, and I've gotten some really nice comments actually on our videos. It's like, this is a really complex subject and you made it make sense, and you showed, and that's what we're trying to do is just show people what's possible. And so I think educating yourself about that and saying like, and also just asking the question, even if you don't know, you're like, well, could I automate this? Could I have a completely automated, social media marketing system that like helps me repurpose? Could I have an automated sales system? We built a sales system for a landscaping company this year. And again, they were doing just so much stuff manually. And so we just really broke down and mapped out the process and says, okay, we're going to let the robots take this and this and this and this, and just frees them up to, and people think, oh, automation's impersonal. And it's like, well, what's impersonal is if somebody like fills out your application form and then they don't hear a reply.
Mm-hmm.
That's impersonal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally costing you money. And I've had clients where we've just been doing the marketing intensive and going through like, okay, what are the different things that people might inquire about? And like their highest level service, they had good 3 or 4 inquiries from 4 months prior that never got a response because it wasn't automated.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what is that? Like 50 grand at least?
Right.
So it's only as impersonal as you make it. Like whatever kooky, weird, like whatever, like let your freak flag fly and put all of that into your content, into your emails, into your videos, into whatever your medium is. And so, people, it's like what you see is what you get. And I hear that a lot from people. They'll show up and be like, oh, I've been watching your YouTube videos for hours. I feel like I know you. And then when I show up, I'm the same.
Mm-hmm.
We're wearing the same hoodie, talking about my dogs, we're talking about, automation. And it doesn't have to be impersonal. I was really sad about this, actually. I'm disappointed in my email subscribers because I put like just straight up Beyonce Easter egg in an email. It was very, very obvious and like nothing. And I was like, so if you're Beehive and you want to be on my list, come get on my list.
Let me go reread this email because I am Beehive and I missed it too, y'all. So let me go. And I
Oh
emails
man,
on twice, so I
I
get your
was
emails on
not
both.
subtle.
Yeah, and I get your emails on 2 email accounts, and so I need to, and I missed it both times. So let me go back and listen.
And I think the email was about you. Like I think it was about our author.
Oh, it might. Yeah, it probably was.
You're like, all right, I don't need to
Because
read
I feel
this
like
one.
I
This is
remember it
about
was
me.
recent. I need to go back and look at it, but yeah,
All
like
right.
I love what you mentioned that automation doesn't have to be impersonal, because I think that that's also a fear that people have, is that it feels like you aren't putting these, you're kind of need these personal touches and things like that. And like you were saying, like things like following up with people, like that does not necessarily have to be something that comes from someone sending directly an email, right? Like either, if I'm your client and I'm receiving an automated email, I'm like, oh shit, let me go ahead and do that, right? Like maybe I remember I forgot to fill out this form, or I forgot to
Exactly.
schedule this for, or whatever. And, or I forgot to fill out this form that you need me to fill out before we do our VIP day or whatever it is, right? Like those kinds of things don't necessarily have to come from you. And I don't think that from the client side of things that people are going to be upset that you got an automated email that told you to follow up and to go ahead and book your services that you already purchased. Well,
Exactly.
those kinds of things.
Well, and I'll tell you, I worked with a sales coach and who was helping me out, and everything was what I call like handcrafted artisanal, right? So I would get like a manual email like, hey, don't forget our calls coming up. And it actually made me feel like a little unsafe because I'm like, if that person's out sick or something happens, that
Mm-hmm.
means that reminder is not going to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like when you have systems, I think that makes people feel safe and like, oh, okay, this is a process. I'm new here, but this is not new.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
there's a system and a process. And so automation can actually help people feel like, oh, okay, I made a really good decision and there's a plan and the plan's being executed and I just have to show up and do my part.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a great point, right? It does, as you know, on the client side of things, when I see someone has an automated process, like it does make me feel like, okay, this person has actually taken time to invest in my customer experience and how I am, able to really kind of get what I just paid for, or I can get the information that I'm requesting. And so, don't walk away thinking automation is impersonal, but more so it helps to build that connection with people, because then they just feel safer. And I think that we're
Mm.
also it's 2023. Like, we are in a world that automation has existed for a long time, y'all. Like, this is not like
Yeah, it's not like brand
new.
new.
Even like I think about, like, I had a doctor's appointment the other day, and they called me and say, "Hey, Stacey, we just wanted to make sure that you remember your appointments tomorrow." I got an email, I got a text, and so it's like that's automated, right? Like, it wasn't just somebody in the office like sending me a text message, or even the woman who called
Hmm.
me, like she got a notification on her system that said, "Call Stacey," right? Like, she didn't have to
Exactly. I
remember
just
to
got my
call me.
dental appointment text. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, well, two things that I thought of. One is, especially back in the day, people were confused all the time with my email. They're like, they didn't know what was automated and what was not, which speaks to the personalized nature of my email messages.
Mhm.
Like whether it's past me or present me, like I'm still putting care and thought into that email, and people felt that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you talked about, the customer experience. And I think, we talk a lot about like get leads, convert leads, but we don't talk a lot about marketing to customers, which is really
Mhm.
where the money is.
Mhm.
Right? Like marketing to your customers and making sure there's that journey to lead them into the next step, right? If you have a next tier offer that comes after whatever engagement you're in, and also marketing to them to actually consume and get like the services and the results that they already paid you for. And anybody who has any sort of group coaching program or anything that can totally, or membership, can relate to this, right? They join the membership, but you actually have to sell them on, hey, show up and get the benefits from the thing that you bought.
Mhm.
And, for instance, I just got off of a call where I show up for 2 hours once a month. And I'm like, this is here as your, accountability. If you want to show up and get work done, or if you want to show up and ask me questions. And when I started doing it, nobody showed up. It was summer, which didn't help. Right. But I had to just be consistent and just be like, hey, I'm going to be here. And now we had almost all of our clients show up. So you still have to market to your clients. And that's really where the real money is.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, because that's literally like in my course. I was just like, I've had on my calendar, I'm like, okay, plan, schedule the Black Friday, live, because I'm gonna go live and talk to everybody about Black Friday and their ads and that kind of stuff. And I've had it on my calendar to just like go ahead and do it for a week. And I finally was just like, God damn it, Stacey, go ahead and do this. But now I'm like, I gotta send an email out. I have to post it on Instagram. I have to post it on Facebook in the group. But it's like, if I had just automated this process, right? Or if I had some kind of automation in place where I'm like, okay, let me schedule this event, and then an email kicks out, and an event gets created in Facebook or whatever, right? Then I wouldn't have to actually have taken the hour it took me to go ahead and get all those things kind of set up manually. Or even if I had just like the template saved somewhere. Like, one of the
Mm-hmm.
things I've been loving about about Gmail, and I know that it's probably been around for a long time, but so I feel like, a bad techie person that I just found out about. But like the templates that you can save in Google, like in your
Oh
Gmail,
yeah.
populate in the email,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my gosh, how have I not been using this for years? Like, I just started using it recently. And so having like that kind of stuff is just so important, I think.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think there's always more you can do, right? And so you can beat yourself up about it, or you can just be like, let me pick one thing this week. And so like my thing, I've been really networking a lot and reaching out and working on collaborations and partnerships. And then there's a lot of work around that, right? So it's like you have this call and it's like, oh, you're great, I'm great. Let's do a podcast or whatever. And then then you got to follow up, you got to email them, you got to schedule it, whatever. And so I've really been trying to figure out like what's the process going to be for me to keep up with this, and either automate or be able to pass off parts of it. And so I've created, and I keep all of these meetings that I'm having. They all go to Airtable, And then I have a field where I can just write the notes and write the kind of shell of the email that I need to, like, if I say, oh, well, you should really check out this thing or this person, right? And know like, okay, these are the links I'm going to send them. And then once that's ready, I can literally just hit a button and Airtable will send the email.
Nice.
So that's been the thing. That's like, okay, I have to get this going to like save my sanity.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's always more you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of the mistakes that you see our online service providers and coaches making when it comes to automating their marketing? Are there any kind of things that stick out that are some kind of like common missteps or mistakes, the things that people tend to experience when they're thinking about automation for their marketing?
Yeah. So this is one of my favorite things to talk about because I love trying to get to people before they do it. So I would say, I think I might have mentioned this earlier, but like order of operations, right? We've had people come to us and be like, yeah, we've been running ads for 6 months and now we want to hire you to build it. And I'm like, where are the people you've gotten, the leads you've gotten in the last 6 months just sitting there like getting nothing, right? So really think about what's the order that makes sense that you're going to do this in. You want to, if you know you're going to do a push for growth, then make sure that you have the strategy and the system in place to know like, okay, where, and I have a really fun, angry Instagram live that I did where I just have this like colander. It's like you're just pouring water into this leaky colander. It's one of my, I might make an ad out of it.
That would be a great ad.
And right?
That would definitely be a great ad.
So, and of course, just not automating at all, like not even asking the question and thinking about like, how do I continually improve? And one of the things that I've realized as we've transitioned into really focusing on the automation piece is that the people we can really make the most impact for have processes that are working. And we can take those processes and we can make them more efficient. So if you have an effective process, you're like, we know we can convert, we know we can sell, we're doing our marketing, like we're getting the emails out, we're doing the thing. Then we can come along and be like, oh, look at this beautiful thing you have here. And let's just raise it up to the next level. And that's really where we shine and have the most impact. So if you're kind of at that level where you're like, yeah, we're doing stuff and it's working, then we can come in and make it work better. And then the other thing I really love doing is just setting people on a good foundation. And we do this less because it's an investment. And a lot of people who are at the place where they're just starting out, they just kind of want to duct tape everything together and DIY. I would say I have literally years worth of content on the tools that we use and the things that can help you set up, a good foundation. My podcast is called Begin As You Mean to Go On, because that's how I roll. And so I would say like not thinking about the long-term consequences of your decisions. If you're in more of a place of, I've had people who come to me who are starting second businesses. And they're not new to business, but they're like, I'm not trying to deal with guessing about what technology we need. And so we have a power hour and I say, tell me what you're doing. And then we just lay it all out. And I say, okay, this is what you need for now. This is what you might need later. Here's some referrals for people you might need. So yeah. And then I think in terms of like the actual technical stuff that we see, like when people come to us with their CRM, I would say just a lack of organization and forethought. Like the lack of strategy and forethought is really evident in some of the databases that we see, where it's like you've got a million lists, you've got a million tags, there's no naming conventions, there's no organization of any kind. And so we can take that and we can just be like, let's just clean this all up so we can actually be efficient and effective in here. So those are some of the things. And, if you watch or listen to any of my content or go onto our website, like I make a lot of content about stuff like this to try to save people from making those mistakes.
Yeah. And I will say, like, I've done a power hour with Kronda, and one of the things I'm guilty of is that I will I fall trap to good marketing. If you have good marketing, it's really easy for you to get me. And so if I see a tool that's like, ooh, they have really good marketing, they create a lot of great content, it's very helpful. I I'm like, oh, and I kind of feel like I need it. I'm like, oh yeah, let me go ahead and buy this. But but what you start to end up doing is you just start to have a bunch of like random pieces of software that do random things instead of having everything kind of like work together. And so we did a power hour, and it was really helpful for me because I realized that like, we talked about what I had and what I currently had in place. We talked about where I wanted to go and the vision. And so you mapped out the software that I would need to help me to get there. And so now instead of me saying like, oh, let me go buy this software, let me go buy that software, especially Black Friday is coming up, y'all. And I spend a lot of money on Black Friday.
Ooh,
But especially with all these sales and stuff coming up, now I'm just like, this is what I need. So now I am looking at the list that you gave me and I'm like, what is on sale for Black Friday from this list that I need?
exactly. That's such a good point. And, AppSumo was out there just, emptying people's pockets left and right. And, and, and one thing, I can't believe I haven't said this already, but one of my core philosophies is that you have to stop buying technology and you have to start hiring technology.
Mm-hmm.
And when you come to it with that mentality, it's like people understand that. Like if I'm going to hire a person for a role in my company, I'm not just going to like start shouting to the rooftops, like, does anybody want to come work for me? Right. I'm going to figure out like, what's the actual role? What's the job description? Where do I need to put it out? Like there's a process and a strategy. And we take that same approach to technology where it's like, okay, you want to get a thing done and you have processes in your business that you need to automate. So let's look at what you actually need to do and then hire the technology that can do that. And I think so many people, when it comes to whether it's like a CRM or project management or whatever, they just go into these Facebook groups and say, well, what's the best, tool for blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then they end up trying to squish their business into that tool, which is backwards. Mm-hmm. So let's put you in the driver's seat and figure out what do you want to have happen. And then we can write the job description. And to that point, so we have this client that we're both working with, and they came to us, with certain needs and requirements. We're like, great, we can do that. So we start building things over, the past, 5 or 6 months. And we get to a point where they're like, okay, we're ready to start putting this out. And they just started like asking us for stuff. And at a certain point, I was like, hold up, there's no strategy here. Mm-hmm. Like we need to get some more expertise in here. And so I sent them over to you. So now they have a beautiful plan. They're like, okay, we have marching orders. We know what we're doing. We know what the goal is, what our KPIs, all that good stuff. And the one thing that they said to me was, because I was like, let me see the plan. Like, I want to see the plan. And she's like, well, there's not much for you to do yet. But then when I saw it, I was like, oh, there's a ton to do. Because now we have the job description. Mm-hmm. We have the marching orders. And now we got to go figure out what's the system that we need to build to make this happen. So I could see right away, like, oh, there needs to be some upgrades happening and we need to map out, certain sales processes and all these kind of things. So it's not just like, oh, come to us when you're ready to like say, hey, will you send these emails for me? Or, hey, will you do this? It's like, we're like 3 of our team members are certified automation service providers through Chris Davis, who was instrumental in helping Lead Pages and Active Campaign get mm-hmm. where they are today. Mm-hmm. And so he has seen, and when I say certified, like, I'm not talking about, oh, we, paid $2,000 a digital marketer and slapped a badge on our website. Like he put us through the ringer to make sure. And so there's just so much brain power going into making sure that we're doing the right things in the right order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that and I love that you took one of the questions off of my sheet. Cause I wrote the question, like, you always talk about hiring software, like you hire employees. Tell me about that. So I'm glad that you brought it up, because I think it's just like, that was such a great reframe for me when I heard you say it, or, heard you say it on your podcast and your content and stuff on Facebook. And it was such an important reframe for me, because I think about it in terms of, when you are bringing different things into your business, right? Like you get to be in the driver's seat. You get to decide whether you want your business to be built on, a model that is more automated. You get to decide if your business is built more like, one-on-one, like you really get to decide. And so you get to, and there's so much software out there that does the same things. They just do different things. They just do things a little bit differently. And so if you sit in the driver's seat instead of saying, hey, what tool can I use to help, what's the best tool to use, really kind of sitting in the frame and in the seat of like, what is the best tool that is going to help me to get to where I want to go, then that just gives you so much more power, because then you're not necessarily evaluating, the most downloaded, technology or the most used technology versus the other one. So you're not just comparing price, you're comparing like, is this going to help me to get to the result that I want? Is this going to help me to build the business that I want? Instead of feeling like you have to, like you said, fit your business into one of these particular softwares. And especially those people who get locked into all-in-one softwares, or software that someone has built, and all of your whole business is reliant on. We are going to go there, because I'm hearing more people have this problem, and I'm like, that means we need to talk about it, because
let's go there.
Because so many people are talking about how they end up, working with someone and they lock them into a system that only this person that they hired can operate, right? Instead of using some of these tools out here like ActiveCampaign, like Lead Pages, that have people who can specialize in those kinds of software. Someone sells you an all-in-one that that really kind of locks you into their whole system. And honestly, I think a lot with all-in-ones, like, I don't like to buy all-in-one softwares because something is broken on this all-in-one. Something doesn't work as well as it's supposed to work. And it's usually the tool that I need that doesn't work as well as some of the other things. And so talk to me a little bit about that. When you have people, have you had that experience of people coming to you with, being locked into someone else's system that they don't really have the option to get out of, or there isn't a whole lot of flexibility in what that system can do. So they have to end up, adapting their business more so to fit the software rather than the software to be able to fit their business.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about my whole career. We can go back to the web days. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I rescued from, I'd be like, okay, great. You're signed up. Like, where, let's get into your website. Where's your domain hosted? And they would just sort of like wave hands like, oh, that's so complicated. Like, my developer did that. I was like, what now? What? Your developer owns your business? What? And I've legit had to help people kind of like claw back their assets. And so, yeah, that's where it started. And then now, to your point, we have these all-in-ones, your Kajabis and your Kartras and your Dubsados. One of my favorite posts, like still to this day, just want to, you have those throwaway posts on Facebook or whatever. And I said, an escape room, but for people trying to leave Dubsado. And when I tell you, there's like 120 comments. And I just hit people like real hard. And here's the thing, I'm not shaming anybody who's using any of these tools. My issue is simply with making an informed decision. Okay. So understanding when you make that choice, what you are compromising potentially, because I get it. When you have other fish to fry, it might be like, this is going to help me get the job done so I can go make this money. I completely understand that. What I want people to understand is, what are the ramifications of that decision, short-term and long-term. And we're, with our mutual client, we're up against a thing right now where it's like, oh, you need to do some stuff and your Squarespace site is no longer going to serve you. Like, it's just not. You're going to end up spending way more time, energy, and money on workarounds than if you just upgrade this to WordPress so that we can do all the bells and whistles things that we know we want to do. So, I think understanding the biases and the limitations of the people that you are getting this advice from, like, I'm real upfront. I'm an ActiveCampaign girl, right? That everybody knows that about me. Go to our whole YouTube channel, but I'm not necessarily going to tell everybody to use ActiveCampaign. If you tell me like, you're not that technical, you just want to send some broadcast emails to keep it pushing, like you're real new in business, you don't have a big budget, I'm not going to tell you to use ActiveCampaign. That would be unethical. Right. So I'm really clear about what my preferences and what my biases are. I also try to be really clear on like when you should actually consider upgrading to these tools. In fact, if you go to episode, I think 14 of my podcast, it's all about our tech stack, and I talk about when. So just don't get trapped, and understand the importance of having control of your data, because that's really where the problem comes with these all-in-ones, is when you want to try to get your data back and they're like, oh no. You know? And there's ways that you can mitigate that. So like I have friends who are systems and tech and automations experts who use Kajabi, and they're like, I use it for my course platform, and then I use other things for my cart, or I just use Dubsado for contracts. Like they are strategic and they understand the limitations of the tools, and they also know how to keep their data like in places where they can control it. So all of those are just considerations, like just that I can look at a situation and instantly call out like, oh, you're gonna have problems with this down the line, and that's what something like the Power Hour can help people with, is to just skip all those speed bumps and roadblocks, and ending up in a place, which I see often, where it's like you finally get your glow up or you're finally ready to scale, and then you come to someone like me and I'm like, oh yeah, we got to rip this back to the studs and build your foundation, and you want to build your foundation before you try to build on top of it, because we all know what happens when you build on a shaky foundation. So yeah, the all-in-ones, I mean, it's I'm a best in class, always have been, whether it's software or whether it's people. We had someone come to us and I did a sales call and a proposal, and he decided to go with a company that was like, oh, they said they can do everything. And I'm like, yeah, our landscaper said that to us too. And then he wrecked our yard and ghosted us.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I'm not saying there's not like agencies out there that that can't serve their clients, but it's just like the software. It's like, it's really hard to do a lot of things well. I would much rather stay in our lane and do something really well. Like when my client came to me and I'm like, oh, I'm not running content bootcamp anymore. I'm not doing content strategy anymore. I'm like, who can I send these folks to that is going to take amazing care of them? And so that's really how I like to do things.
Yeah, that's definitely, like, all that you said was just so spot on. And it made me think about, I've had people come to me back in the day when I had an ad agency. I don't have an ad agency anymore, so please don't ask me to run your ads. But when I had an ad agency and I was running ads for people, I would have so many people come my way, and I would go and kind of do my, due diligence of looking around. And so many people didn't even own their Facebook pixel. And I'm like, it is so important for you to own your Facebook pixel, rather than like, if you are saying like, hey, I need to, whether you're taking my course, whether you're, doing this on your own or you're taking somebody else's course, it is so important for you to own your data. And the person who creates your pixel, creates your pixel, is the owner of the pixel. And so that's why it's so important for you to create your pixel. And that's another like thing I kind of, not to go off on a rant, but like I try to tell people, if you are working with an ad agency, you have to have a basic understanding of how ads work, especially Facebook ads. And because there's a lot of agencies out here that know how to run Google ads, but they add Facebook ads into the mix because that's what their clients want, but they don't really understand the nuances between the channels. And like, I've literally audited a client's Facebook ads, and they went from breaking even to getting a 5x on their money because it wasn't technically set up correctly from the beginning, because they set it up like how they would set up a Google ad. And it's completely different platforms, people are using the platforms very differently. And so it's really important for you as the business owner, if you are hiring an ad agency or hiring someone to handle your data, that you sit with someone like me, you sit with someone with Kronda first, so that you understand what are the, pros and cons of having this person set all this stuff up for you. What are the things that you need to do on your side to make sure that you are protected down the line? Because I'm telling you, you can try to fight it out with Facebook to try to say, I own this pixel. It's going to be hard.
They're not going to care.
It was hard to like reclaim an Instagram account that someone else set up, but it was supposed to be set up under Zappos, the brand, right? And so we had to go through this. We had dedicated reps that we could talk to. Now most of us just have chat support, and it was hard even with reps to claim ownership of a page that someone else created because it's supposed to be under our brand. Like it was a months long fight. I don't even know if they solved it when before I left, to be honest, because I've
Wow.
been fighting with them for so long and trying to make it so that like Zappos the brand does own this Instagram account. And the person who set it up, they have like a lot of things that happen, like, you know, someone sets up your business manager, they set up your pixel, they working with your business for a while, and then they leave and you forget about it because you got all these other things going on. And then you're like, oh, well, now I want to start running ads or I want to start doing these things. And you come back to it and you're like, oh crap, I can't access anything. I don't have access to my data. I don't have access to my pixel. I can't do this kind of stuff.
Back to the data,
yeah,
back to the ownership.
Exactly. It is. So ownership.
And I'm gonna send you some links to, because I have so many articles about this, just about owning your digital assets and that whole thing, because it's so important. And I've had clients complain, like, you know, they're like, this is a done for you service. Why do I have all this homework? And I'm like, because it's your business and you need to own the stuff. Yes. Like, you know, and back in my web development days, it was like, nope, you're going to go in and you're going to buy this domain. Like, I will sit with you and I will walk you through it, but it is, and I used to make this analogy with real estate. You know, it's like, if you're going to buy a house and you hire a real estate agent, they're there to help you facilitate that sale. They're not going to sign the papers, because if they do that, they own your house. Right. And it's the same with your tech. It's like, you have to own it. You know, it has to be on your credit card. Like, and I've always been a stickler for that. And this is why the all-in-one thing, it's like, somebody's like, oh, Google ads, we can just tack on Facebook ads. Like, they're not putting the best interest of their client at heart. They're just like, oh, let me get some extra coins. You know,
how hard could it be to run Facebook? Oh, you know, there's no nuance. Right. Yeah, that's definitely spot on. So one of the things that we created is, and kind of like talking about, you know, kind of wrapping what we talked about today in a bow, is we have, you know, I think that both of us have experienced people coming to us needing what the other offers. So like, I've had people coming to me saying, hey, I just need to run Facebook ads. And then I go and I'm like, you don't even have an automated kind of system that we can send people to. You don't have a way of delivering this lead magnet that's not manual. You don't have a way of tracking this, like, you know, of all that kind of
your
stuff.
Your GoDaddy web builder page is not gonna
it's not gonna do it for landing you. Page. Yes, it ain't gonna do it for you, right?
And so these are not beginners, people. Yes. Like, this is, you know,
these are people who are making lots of money. Like, you know, like I remember I had a client that came to me and I was like, you know, we were talking, I'm just like, okay, like talk to me about your funnel. And they're like, I don't have a funnel. And I'm like, you making all this money, you don't have a damn funnel. Imagine how much money you could be making if you had a funnel.
Oh my God, right?
You know, and then you've had people coming to you and they're like, you know, you've built out their funnels and give them all the tech. And then they're like, okay, now what do we do? Right. We need to get traffic. We need to drive people there. And so would you want to talk a little bit about the offer that we put together for people?
Absolutely.
So you can get both. So you can come to us to get both of these problems solved instead of having to kind of piece them together.
Yeah. So, you know, we were talking and masterminding really and putting our heads together and realizing like people really need both of these things. Right. And so we did a workshop. We did a 2-hour workshop where, you know, Stacy talked about all things ads and what you really need to have in place to make that effective. And then I talked all about the strategic follow-up that needs to happen. And so we've put together a joint VIP day where you're going to go and you're going to get your strategy. Like, maybe it's ad strategy, or maybe you get there and she's like, nope, you need to start. We need to go deeper and back to the foundation, but you're going to get your holistic marketing strategy and marching orders. And then she's going to send you over and send that plan over to us. And we're going to look at it and say, okay, now we know the plan. We're going to create the job descriptions, if you will, for the technology. And we're going to map out what exactly you need to make this happen on a technical level, both now and in the future, because I think it's something really important that a lot of people don't think about when they're evaluating tech. Is they're just thinking about right now. What can I do right now? Like, what can I pay right now? And it's like, you need to think about not just when you have, like, I was talking to a client, she was like, oh yeah, this works because we've only written 5 emails, but when we have 500, we're going to need a different way to know, like, and access that data and know, like, you know, what have we created? What have we not created? And so we're putting that together for them now. And I just think it's so beautiful, and it's going to help so many people make a lot of money, but also save a lot of time and money and wasted energy on doing the wrong things. So it's so juicy, and you really need it. And the workshop is up on the sales page, so you can go and you can watch it. And then you can get into our DMs, or you can, just sign up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that it's so impactful because y'all, like, a lot of people out there, at least what I see from the marketing side, or the marketing tactics and strategy side, is that a lot of y'all are focusing on tactics and not strategy. Like, a lot of y'all are focusing on, how do I do Instagram better? Or how can I, use Facebook better? Or how do I, write better blogs, or things like that. But it's like, sometimes we have to take a step back to make sure that every marketing channel that we're doing is actually pointing to the same place, and is actually, helping us to, and actually is working together. And so when I create my strategies, like Kronda was saying, they are very holistic. And I will absolutely tell you, I've had people come to me, lots of times, and I've told them that you are not ready for ads. You need a marketing strategy that helps you to get the data that we're going to use to base these Facebook ads on. And organic marketing is just so important. And out of, honestly, it's out of integrity for me, because I'm not about to tell you to run ads if I think that these ads are not going to work for you. I'm like, can I give you an ad strategy? Absolutely. But I want to make sure that I get you results. That's my biggest thing, is making sure that you get results. And so that's why I've teamed up with, experts like Kronda to make sure that y'all get results. I'm not just delivering you a plan that now you're like, oh crap, we don't know how to bring this plan to life, or we don't have the automations or the time or the energy to actually make this happen. It's making sure that, you do get the strategy, you do have the direction, you do have the roadmap, but then you also have someone that you can go to say, okay, how do we bring this to life? And what are the different things that we can put in place to make it so that this is not becoming something that's exhaustive on our team, that's already overworked and already has a lot of things going on. But how do we make it so that we can, that the vision that we create in these sessions comes to life, but we can do it in an automated way. So definitely make sure y'all head over to stacyzeal.co/growth. That's where you can watch the webinar. That's where you can learn about the offer and how to work with us. And so I want to round us out by talking about, because we are getting close to 2024 and everybody's starting to think about what's going on for next year and planning. So we've talked about a lot of tech today, but we haven't talked about really is AI. And so I wanted to kind of get your take on, with this rise of AI, what's your take on how we should be using it in 2024 to grow our businesses, but also making sure that we're growing our businesses in a way that is, in a more like intentional kind of way, and like, how do we use AI to benefit us and to make sure that we also are caring for our clients?
Yeah. So I think you really need to figure out, it's the hiring mentality, right? Is this something that I can hire to help me be more efficient in my business? And like still get the results that you need. Like for me, I'm someone who never really runs out of content ideas. And so for me to train ChatGPT to write like I write, like it doesn't make any sense. I literally have 10 years worth of content in my pot of gold database, which is what we use to wrangle and organize all our content. So I'm like, I use it to help me create outlines, like for my YouTube videos, for podcasts, for articles and things like that. But then I go and I write the stuff, right? Because I think as more people are using it, you start to see this more generic, content where you can tell people just kind of ripped it off there and didn't really put any extra thought into it. And so I think that the people who are going to win are the people who maybe use ChatGPT or other AI tools to like as kind of an idea generator and a way to ideate and a way to kind of, because I definitely do get things where I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Like, let me put that in. But then I use my own brain and my own expertise to actually create that content. And I've seen what happens when people who don't know what they're doing think. I literally had a client who was like, oh, I'm going to take this branding guide that we got, from this company that we worked with, and I'm just going to feed that into ChatGPT and it's going to write our emails for us. Literally the worst emails I have ever seen. I was like, I'm not even letting you send this to a single person. So you can't use it to make you an expert on something that you're not already an expert on. You can use it to help you be more efficient in the expertise that you already have. That's my take on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I use ChatGPT and some of these other I just discovered Claude, which I love the name Claude because I like Alexa. And so I feel like a person. um, but and so I use them like you were saying as like a brainstorming buddy where I'm like, okay, like I did a talk earlier today to some students to like some college students about marketing, and I'm like, I haven't really talked to college students about marketing at all. And so I'm like, well, what do college kids care about when it comes to marketing, right? Like, because I could give you the nuts and bolts, but they're still in school. They're not like
Mm-hmm.
out here trying to grow their businesses. They're just like trying to get a job. And so I use ChatGPT to help me, like, okay, let's help me to give me an outline for this. And I hadn't really thought about talking about personal branding a lot because when the people who I communicate with, they know the importance of a personal brand and they've already kind of have a personal brand and they just they are a thought leader in their space and they are positioning themselves in that way. So it did give me the idea to like talk a little bit more about personal branding for people who don't have a personal brand yet, right? Because that's somewhere that they can start, especially as a college student. That helps you to stand out. And so using it to help you brainstorm, using it to help you to give you kind of points that you hadn't really thought about. Thinking, I've sometimes even use it for a little bit of market research in the sense that like, what are some things that, online business owners are struggling with? Give me like a list of like 20 things that they're struggling with. And then I kind of go through and I, figure out what are the things that pertain to my audience? What are the things that I can tie my experience to? How can I bring in my storytelling and things like that? I even have within the course, Maximize with Ads, which you do actually get as a bonus when you buy our VIP day. You get Karanda's pot of gold, and you get
Good
my course.
stuff. I've been in
And
there. It's
so
good stuff.
within Maximize with Ads, there is an AI module there, and even in that module, I give you the prompts, but I walk you through like you need to also add your own sauce on this, right? Like don't just take what it's giving you and just stick that into an ad, but really like use the language that your clients use. Use it to give you a starting point, but make sure you put your own stuff on it. So I love that. So we've talked about a whole lot today. So I want to make sure that you have time to tell everybody how they can connect with you, how they can work with you, what are some of the different ways, or also let them know like when is the right time to come to you for any of the particular offers. So like where would they be right now in order for them to best start working with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So best place is to go to karveldigital.com. You can reach our blog from there, our podcast from there, our YouTube channel. You can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn. Just search my name. And I think, like I said earlier, like the people who are really best positioned to help us like skyrocket them have an offer. And I was talking to my mentor about this. He said, I was in a room full of really high level marketers, and for the first time ever, somebody admitted like we can't really do our thing until somebody has a really great offer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you have an offer that is proven, that is selling, you have a process. And then we could come in and we can really help you like just take all of your effort and get rid of a lot of the effort, the manual effort in there, and automate some things, and build out that engine, right? That foundational marketing engine, and then maintain it. And one of the things I'm really excited about that we just added, that I think is so long overdue, is the marketing dashboards. To know like, okay, these are the KPIs. We know, if you're going to run ads, then we know we need to track like how many people are going to the page. What's your conversion rate for this page? How many people are getting onto your list? What's your conversion rate for your, your welcome sequence and your sales sequence? So we have dashboards that we are custom setting up for every client so that you have one place to go, because all of the successful business owners and mentors that I've had, like they all have this CEO dashboard where they can see the high level metrics that matter. And I think, almost all of our clients that we've ever had are missing that. And so I'm really happy to be able to start offering that. And, if you come to the VIP day and we get your plan together and then you're like, hey, I need help implementing this. Well, we have CRM to sales where we can help you build that stuff out and we can help you maintain it, because like maintaining a CRM is it's a whole job, right?
Mm-hmm.
To do it well so that like, hey, who are your hot leads and like what's your conversion and how are people engaging and interacting with your emails? How are you collecting data on your clients that helps you segment them better? Like it's a whole thing. So that's our flagship offer. And you can go and find all about that on the website. And I would love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Send me a DM that's not like developers trying to sell me services from. That would be so refreshing.
That's hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Love that. Awesome. Yeah. Y'all, all of the links will definitely be in the show notes. And y'all, I'm gonna have to give me this marketing dashboard. Let me tell you, because I use a spreadsheet and having a dashboard sounds so good.
Girl,
So nice.
I've been meaning to talk to you for a minute about your spreadsheets.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you, I am a spreadsheet kind of girl. Let me tell you, but I love automation. I love tools. And it's honestly ends up being in a place where I'm like, I need to create something for me to stay consistent. And that's one of the things I tell people when they think about marketing consistency is that you have to create systems that facilitate consistency. Like I am not a consistent person by nature. If I could just
I don't think anyone is.
Sit on my balcony and float through the day, I would absolutely do that. But I create systems. And so if I'm like, I need a spreadsheet, that's usually my default. I'm like, okay, I need a spreadsheet. Like if I need to make it so that I stay on top of my prospecting and I stay on top of my lead generation, I need a spreadsheet. And so I'll just go in and create a spreadsheet. And so it's really is a temporary solution to solve the short-term problem. But long-term, right, I need to be thinking about like, the services that Kronda offers and the dashboards that she creates. And, the next thing on my list is a CRM that we talked about, right? And so while like I get it, I get that we have to create these kind of short-term solutions because, for our sanity and to help us stay consistent. And that's okay, like do that, but then also keep in mind that you do need to start to at some point work with an expert that is going to help you to make sure that this is scalable and something that you can actually pass off to other people. Because even if you want to exit your business, one day, maybe a spreadsheet.
Or just go on vacation.
Right, exactly. Or just be able to go on vacation, right? Just be able to go on vacation, take a sabbatical, trek through the rainforest, something, right? Like if you want to do any of those things, like you're going to have to work with somebody that can help you to create systems that can be run by anybody, right? Like, like even I think about when I was leaving Zappos, right? Like, there were systems in place, but then there were also like a lot of that was dependent on me creating a system because I'm like, I came into this role and I had to create systems for my sanity, but then I can pass those systems off to other people. So that way, if I leave or when I leave, someone else can, the work doesn't have to stop. Somebody else can pick up and go right along. So, this was just such a great conversation, y'all. So definitely make sure that you go to the show notes to check out Kronda's links. Make sure you head over to stacyzeal.co/growth to check out our webinar and to learn how to work with us. Thanks again for coming on the show, Kronda. I will make sure that
thanks for
on next week. So make sure, again, you're following the show. Make sure that you are leaving us a review if you found something that you liked out of the episode. And I will see you on the next episode. OMG, that episode was packed with gems. Are you ready for more? Head over to stacyzeal.co/podcast to get the show notes and to sign up to get our top 5 podcast episodes to help you streamline your marketing so you can make this your $1 million year. Head over to stacyzeal.co/podcast.